Welcome back to another episode of The Sweet Spot. This is John Sherman from the Four Foundations of Golf. And as always, I'm joined by.
Adam from Adam Golf.
So today we're going to do hopefully a two topic episode. We've got, I think they're completely different topics. One is I would say it's a complaint slash rant from a follower about a competition between their friend and match play. I thought it was an interesting question. Just brought up a lot of things about expectation management, how I think, what's a good strategy and mindset and match play and competition in general. So we'll probably tackle that second. And then Adam had what do you have, a tweet the other day that did well for you that you want to explore more of?
Yeah, so something that is like a consistent theme in lessons with me is I get people who are obviously, now with the podcast and the book, I'm getting more people who are they're not brand new golfers. They know a lot about my work. So, and especially with social media these days, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of great free information on how to do it. Yet the biggest problem is, you hear all the time people say, well, I know what I need to do. I just can't do it.
But I can't do it.
Yeah, so a typical thing, this stemmed after having a lesson, and another one, these happen almost every time, but a player who was like 9 degrees out to in with their path, and they knew it, and they're like, well, I've tried everything, I can't change it. And instantly, in 3 swings, we changed it. Actually, and then I went to play, I would get Idaho and Utah mixed up. I have no idea why. No idea why. Are they even close together? I went to Utah to play golf, and I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I was practicing on the range next to this guy, and everything would just slice 40 yards right. And this guy was powerful. You could see he was athletic. His strikes were okay, but just everything 40 yards. He was losing at least 40 yards of distance as well. He's cutting across it so much. And I'm just looking at him practicing, and I want to say something so bad, but I can see he's
You want to
running out
pull
of ball.
the old range routine. Hey, I noticed you were struggling. Can I help you out?
Yeah, well, obviously, when you're a pro and you practice, every time you're going to be next to someone who could use some help. But there's several reasons why you can't do it, right? Obviously, there's the ethical part of like I'm a teacher. I can't just go on to walk onto any range and start teaching people because it's like walking into a hairdresser's and starting cutting hair. If it's not your
Yeah,
facility.
exactly. You have to be respectful to whoever, the head pro and other pros that are working at that golf course.
Yeah, and I mean, a quick little tip here and there, I'm sure is overlooked, but some people might not know if it's an actual lesson or not. But the other thing is, he had like by the time I looked over, he's got like 5 balls left. I'm like, well, he's probably gonna be going out for a round of golf. I don't want to say something to him, have him like have 3 attempts at trying it and then not do so well, and then go out in the course and rue my name. So I didn't say anything, but I did tweet because I looked at the guy's equipment and he's like got all the latest gear, like $700 drivers, maybe $700 shaft, to be honest. And I'm just thinking, like, no shaft is gonna reduce that out to in path. No
No,
shaft
no.
is gonna stop that. You're cutting across it by 7 degrees and losing all that distance. Um, and so I just like, why wouldn't he go to a lesson? Like, why? Because you could fix that in seconds. And I don't know whether he had in the past. I'm not sure, but I just tweeted out something along the lines of like, if you've got all the gear, just get a lesson. Because I mean, okay, lessons are expensive. I get it. Like, I'm not cheap. I get it. But what I would teach you would do more than a $300 driver long term. And it's just, I don't understand the mentality that much unless I think the answer backs to that would be, well, I've had lessons in the past and it didn't work. So yes, I would say, look, go to an instructor that's good, that knows what they're talking about, that actually can make a change with you, which is easier said than done. But, when someone's 7 degrees out to in, I know I can change that like that, like slicing across it so much. Am I going to now I'm not going to lie and say I'm going to make him hit laser after laser over and over, but can I turn a slice into a draw? Can I add him 30 yards in 20 minutes or 10 swings? Yes, because it's that bad in his scenario.
Well, to your point on equipment, and I think any reputable club fitter, and I'll use Woody Lashin from Pete's as an example, who I've heard this he's probably said it on our podcast before, but he'll say that to people if they come in and he's got his GC quad on and he sees a just very, let's call it a death move in the golf swing. And he knows the swing really well at this point. He's seen thousands of golfers. He will say to that golfer, he's like, listen, I can give you some equipment to accommodate this, but it's not going to fix the underlying issue. And oftentimes they will recommend lessons because of that, saying, we could fit you now, but I don't think he's like, I could, do some stuff with the driver here and there, but I can't fix your slice. I can accommodate it. And they often, because they're responsible, will say, you'd be best served getting a swing lesson. And they actually, have a great instructor there named Kirk Agori, who does fitting as well. He's one of the few people I think has equal knowledge in both. And he would say the same thing. It's like, the equipment can only do so much, but, you can't overcome impact dynamics that are just not matching up well. Now, sometimes you can't and then the other retort is like, if you have a more experienced player who, they've got a little bit of a slice here and there, but the spin rate was just way wrong, or the loft setting was wrong, or the shaft was wrong. Like, yes, there can be some upgrades there if someone's like somewhere in the middle, but to this person who you saw on the range, like, you could give them all the equipment in the world. It's not going to solve the banana slice. And I think the other point you asked, like, well, why do people do that? Because why do we do anything? Like, we love quick fixes. We love spending money on big shiny objects that promise us everything that gets us there quicker than doing the actual work, which takes more time and labor. And if you were spending 2, 3, 4 grand on a full set of clubs and you spent half that on lessons with a good instructor, I'd say you come out way ahead on the lessons.
Yeah, I think long term, especially because, if you get the right type of lesson, you're setting in processes that are going to improve you over time. Not just right. Let's fix this problem right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I didn't get lessons. I got 4 swing lessons about 13 or 14 years ago. And if I didn't get those lessons, those are the last swing lessons I've gotten. I haven't gotten a lesson since then. If I did not get those 4 lessons, I would have never gotten better, started my website, anything. All of this would have never happened if I didn't get those 4 lessons. Honest to God, I swear. Like, I am absolutely being truthful about that.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, you can do a lot by teaching yourself. Like I said, there's so much good information out there these days. You just have to know what to learn. I think if I was 15 years old with all the information out there now, I would be lost, because the information that I've eventually come to is actually very simple, the stuff we talk about all the time. But there's so much on the swing now that I probably would have got lost down swing mechanics if I was 15, because I was that way inclined. There's an abundance of information on it,
Yeah.
and you can spend your lifetime searching for the magic move that's going to make you better than everybody else, and it just doesn't necessarily exist. You have to find the move that's right for you. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting question. I kind of asked it seriously. I know a lot of the answers based on who comes to me and what I found out from them, but just listening to other people, what is the reason why someone doesn't change? Like, why would someone not change that 8-degree left path? And I mean, it could come down to many factors. Maybe he didn't even know it. Maybe he didn't know that he's got an 8-degree left path. Maybe he doesn't believe that it's changeable. I found out a few things. So the biggest irony of all this is I went onto the first tee. Guess who joined up with me? Yeah. So,
That's
but
a
I
great
thought he was
twist to the story.
awesome.
And he
thought
shot a
was awesome.
68 when I
Well, actually,
coached him on the course.
fair enough to him. He was actually pretty good. I think he was about a 12 handicap or something. But based on
that's an above average golfer.
I wouldn't have thought that based on looking on the range. Everything was carving way off to the right.
You never know. You never know.
On the course, he aimed so far left, and he just carved it back into the fairway pretty reliably. So
was it like a desert golf course, like no trees and just
yeah.
Okay.
So it would have been hard in certain situations. I'm sure if the wind was blowing as well, it make things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Tree line fairways, things like that. But he was actually pretty good with the move that he had, and I was quite impressed with him. With that said, there's definitely more potential in him. He was losing 50 yards of distance with his driver, and then I was hitting in 2 clubs less than him with the irons, and he probably had 10-mile-an-hour club speed on me.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
just losing so much efficiency. And I know people say, "Oh, distance isn't everything." It is. It
It's a
matters.
lot.
60
It's a
yards
lot.
extra is going to be a big difference.
Well, there's two differences with distance you have to think about is if you're not capturing close to your potential with your current swing speed, then yeah, it's a big deal. And that's, with the crazy out to in swing. So you're just kind of swiping at the ball, it's spinny, you're not compressing it, all that stuff. Versus, there are players who, like you and me, like we're pretty tapped out. Like the only way we're going to get more distance is if we increase swing speed. So there's two sides to that. And a lot of players don't need to increase their swing speed to get more distance. They've got 20, 30 yards potentially waiting them for them with spin, launch, and ball speed optimizations.
And that was the frustrating thing looking at this guy with the $3,000, $4,000 worth of equipment, knowing that one lesson, 10 swings with me would change that and add more than any of that equipment would. So the fun part was I played with him. I didn't tell them what I did for a living. I often do that. I just play with people because I want to have fun and just get to know them. They were super nice guys. They were really fun to play with as well. And this guy, at the end of it, I did say to him, because my girlfriend pushed me, she said, "Why don't you go and fix him?" And I said,
Do
"You know
you
what?"
know who I am?
I said, "You know what? That would actually be quite cool." Because the tweet, I tweeted it at the start of the round. And by the end of the round, I wouldn't say it was going viral, but I think 100,000 people had viewed it. And so I was like, wouldn't this be cool if I got this on video,
Yeah,
changing
yeah.
changing his swing? So I said to him at the end, I said, "Look, I didn't tell you what I do, but I'm actually a golf instructor." And he's like, "Oh, it makes sense now because I hit in the fairway all the time." I didn't actually score that well, but he said, "You're really good with the driver." And so I said to him, "Look, can we go on the range? Just give me 5 minutes, and I just want to see if I can fix that slice for you." Because I'd asked him middle of the round, like, "What have you ever tried to fix it?" He's like, "Yeah, I've tried it. It's never going to change. I bet we could change this." So we went on the range. As you can imagine, I did the nail drill with him. So I just placed a ball on the ground, angled that nail way to the right, and I said, "Look, I'm going to tee this up for you. I want you to hammer that nail in that direction and just give it can be a good shot, it can be a bad shot. I don't care. Just give me your best attempt at hammering that nail." And he's athletic, so I knew he would do it. First swing looked like 3 degrees into out. Big block slice.
Yeah,
Okay, so he
of
still
course.
left the
Yeah,
face
yeah,
open.
yeah.
And then so from there, he already had a strong grip, so I wasn't going to strengthen the grip. He had some funky wrist angles that were open in the face, so he was kind of cupping the wrist. But I'm like, well, I've only got 5 minutes with him. I don't want to go into that kind of
You should
detail.
do a you I've been pushing Adam to do YouTube, by the way, everyone. You should do a YouTube series because people love series and challenges on YouTube. Like it's like the thing. You should have like the 15-minute lesson where you take someone who is, far gone being like, "Oh, I can never fix this." And then the challenge is, let's see if Adam can fix them in less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'd have
That's
fun
a
with that.
that's an absolute banger concept to
I would
use
have
my
fun with
son's.
that. But there is another side of that I'll go through in a moment. But yeah, anyway, so we did the nail drill, first swing, brilliant. So I said, right, all we need to do now to make that functional is add on a closed face. So I just said to him, add more forearm rotation through impact because in terms of face closers, we could strengthen the grip, we could change the wrist angles, or we could add more rotation at the bottom. His biggest issue was probably the wrist angles, but he also had a low forearm rotation rate as well. So I thought, well, that's going to be much easier than changing wrist angles. I've got 5 minutes. Let's go with that. So he added on the forearm rotation. It turned from a block slice into a block. He said, "Do more of it, more of it, more of it." I kept pushing him more, more, more. And after 3 swings, he hit that first draw. And he's like, "Whoa, I've got it on camera as well."
This would
So
be an incredible YouTube video. I just delivered you gold. You need to do this.
you know what? I really want to do it because I've got a video of him before on the
I think
court
this
where
would be
he's
excellent
aiming
content.
literally, he's
Yeah.
aiming 45 degrees left and he hits a shot. It's actually pretty good. Oh no, I think he overdoes it, but it starts out over the canyon and curves and hits the right side of the rough, I think. But it's like curving 60 yards in the air. So I've got that on video, and then I've got his swing after. And I want to release it. I want to contact him because he's on Instagram. So contact him and say, "Is it okay if I do it?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
blur your
yeah.
face out." Because I don't know what his thoughts are on that.
This would be it would be like I remember I think Hank Haney had a show like the Haney Project, and he had like Charles Barkley who was trying to fix them. But you
Yeah.
could do like a YouTube version of this. People, I'm sure, would be happy to fly out and see you. They get a lesson out of it, and you can make like a cool challenge. Be like, can I fix this? 12-degree in to out or out to in slice, or take common swing faults and play them out live. And
Yeah.
I think that'd be great, man. You should do that.
Well, stuff like that is easy to me. To get someone from 7 degrees out to into a neutral path is very, very easy. There are certain things that are more difficult. In that tweet thread, I talked about certain things that are more difficult. Like to make someone consistent is more difficult. That's going to require practice on their behalf. But to change something, and again, I
Yeah,
don't like the term fix either because nothing is ever fixed in golf. Everything is always flowing
it's
from one state to
adjusted.
another.
Yeah.
Sometimes, maybe in 3 weeks he's hooking everything. He's still nailing it right, closing the face and snap hooking
Well,
everything.
then the face control problems eventually show up once you move past that much, right? Like that would be like the final battle in the swing changes is the
Yeah.
face control element of it.
Exactly. And I have drills to obviously improve face control as well. So to add on that. So changing a pattern is pretty easy as an instructor. Then reducing or improving the consistency of that pattern requires other more advanced tactics. And that I will admit those things can take more time.
Yeah. But would you say, here's a question for you. It's related to experience I recently had with a listener of the show who told me he wasn't a good driver of the golf ball.
Mhm.
And I watched him on the range before we played, and I'm watching like a lot of straight, tight draws, some open face, some closed face. And he actually had a GC quad with him. And I looked at his ball flight and I'm like, man, this ain't so bad. Like he's hitting at 250 yards. And of course, his swing path was only 1-2 degrees into out. It was just a matter of like face two open, face two close. And I think you'd much rather start with someone there where you don't have to. That was my question to you. Like, would you much rather start with someone who doesn't have a swing path issue and then you're just working on like face control calibration versus someone who has to do two, like make the big change with swing path plus face control after that?
I mean, as a teacher, it just depends because the path issue might be a bigger issue, costing that person a lot, but there's also a lower risk reward as an instructor, and I also can fix those things much easier. Like big issues are actually quicker to fix or easier to fix, or you get a lot more out of it, even if you only change the path by 2 or 3 degrees or 50% of what you desire. It's going to have a noticeable effect on their game. When you have things more like consistency issues, they got a neutral path, but a little left, little right. Those can be more difficult to fix. What I do in those cases, I give people processes for, okay, this is how you go off and improve this. We're also, digging into why is it inconsistent? Because there's so many reasons for inconsistency. It could be a technical thing. If someone's super weak grip and they're flipping at the bottom like this, there's very few pros who do that. So we might work to reduce that kind of thing. It could be that they're inducing their own inconsistency. They're consciously trying to change from shot to shot and they just don't know how to do it in the right amount. So learning, certain guardrails for, well, when should you actually change it? If I hit the left rough, I'm probably not going to change it for the next one. If I do it 2 in a row or 3 in a row times, that's when I start to make an intervention. And even then it's very small. And then the next layer, I have all these different interventions I could do. And I know which ones produce a bigger change, which ones produce a smaller change. So like I've said a million times, if I need a small tweak to my ball flight, I usually change my right hand. If I need a bigger tweak, I'm going to change my left hand more. The left hand is more, it just makes a bigger change for me. And that's a personal thing. But yeah, I did that lesson with the guy, got him hitting the draw in a few minutes, got it on video, thank God. I'm wary of releasing it though, because my fear with it is people are going to look at it and say, oh, well, why didn't you change his wrist angles? And I would openly admit, yeah, that's probably would have been a better option, but it's also a more difficult option. And I've just got 5 minutes with this guy. If you gave me a month with this guy, we'd do it
Well,
differently.
that I think that's what would be educational about it so that people understand that yes, if I had limited time to work on something, these are your options. But if I have more time and really want to like solve the bedrock of the issue, then I have to tackle the bigger thing, the bigger technical flaw or whatever it is, that's going to take more time and effort. And explaining the difference between the two for each player, I think that actually be fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It could be. And sometimes as an instructor, you've just got to get the job done for the person in that moment. Like for
Yeah,
me, the
some
goal
people
was,
need to play. Like, I've got a club championship next week. Help me,
well,
or
there's
it's
that
different.
side
I've
of
got 6 months. Help me in 6 months. It's different time windows
there's that
and
side of it as
motivations.
well, where you might not make a change at all in that. If someone's got a big game tomorrow, you might not make a big change like that at all. But there's also, you just got to get for that player in particular who's seen it slice 60 yards left to right all his life. I just wanted to show him you can hit a shot that curves right to left. I mean, he was ecstatic when he did it. He's like, "Whoa! I just did hit a draw for like the first time in my life." And it's like, yeah, it's not difficult. But again, it's interesting because he knew what it takes to hit a draw into our path, close face to it, but he just never done it. I didn't push too much as to why, but that would have been fun to learn as well. But yeah, I mean, that's what the tweet was about. My tweet went down what I go through in a lesson, like these kind of checklists that I go through to see why is this player not able to do this on their own. So sometimes it's an understanding thing. They don't have the right concept. For example, why is a beginner on their back foot scooping it? Why do you think? It's a question,
Because
Julian.
they're trying to help the ball into the air. They think that's what they
Exactly.
need to do to get the ball in the air.
Exactly. So that's a concept issue. Now, you can teach mechanics on top of that poor concept, but what you will find is they will fight it. They
Yeah.
won't be able to do it. So I'm sure plenty of our listeners have tried to teach their wives, girlfriends, kids, whatever, friends, and they're on their back foot trying to scoop it. And they say, well, no, you need to shift your weight forwards. And so they make these beautiful practice swings, shifting their weight forwards. Then they get to the ball and it's back foot scoop again. Well, why is that happening? It's because there's the mechanic side, but it's in complete competition with the concept that the player has. And this could be a conscious concept. Someone is actively saying, I've got to get under this. It could just be an unconscious reflex as well. It could be something more instinctive, like how do we get a ball in the air? We're not used to hitting objects with loft or hitting with implements with loft, really. I don't think we evolved with lofted spears.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of going through it a little bit. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. My son, who is 12 years old, not both of my kids have been exposed to golf. I haven't forced it on them because no one forced it on me. And they haven't really taken to it. But my son has given me a little bit of an opening. He wanted to come out on the course with me. So we went out for 9 holes and I'm just letting him smack my clubs. I'm teeing up balls. I'm doing everything. And my clubs are obviously too heavy and long for him. But it's fun watching him. He likes to play baseball. So as you said, like he's doing things athletically that aren't, conducive to getting the ball in the air. And I'm like, just go smack it. And one of them, I put one from 40 yards away. I mean, he hit this low running shot and it almost went in. It like just missed the cup. And I saw a little glimmer of excitement there. So I just got him some clubs that are better suited for him. But I'm trying to keep my mouth shut because I don't want to overwhelm him with information. I just did some ball position stuff and I'm like, look, just kind of adjust this or that, giving him little feels. But yeah, I'm so far removed from being a beginner myself. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I learned this lesson a lot. One of the first lessons that I taught, I remember a lady, and she was through impact. She was collapsing her arms, getting, her arms close to her belly button through impact and just topping the ball. Top, 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 top. She was also, standing up as well. Everything. She had like 10 things in her swing that were moving away from the golf ball, away from the ground. So being an instructor early, I just hit the mechanics and I said, well, keep your arms straighter. All right. So she started doing that, but then she started raising up with her body even more. So I'm like, okay, well, I've solved one problem, but now a new one's opened up. So then I say, right, well, keep your arms straighter and keep down in the backswing. So don't kind of raise up. So now she's doing both of those things, which is hard to do two new things. And now she finds a way of shrugging her shoulders to hit the top of the ball. And it didn't matter whatever I did, if I told her not to shrug, not to keep the arm, or to try and keep the arm straight, to keep the body down, then she would straighten her legs and raise up that way. So it was like you have this one problem, you fix that, and then you open up three more problems. And ultimately, after, about half an hour, I took her aside and I'm just like, this is really tough. I mean, we started talking about something, and it came out that she thought you shouldn't hit the ground. She thought, well, no, you can't. Look at the grass; it's beautiful. I don't want to cut
Yeah,
the grass.
yeah.
I'm not. I'm trying not to hit the ground at all. I'm like, wait there. So I dropped a few balls down and I made a few swings and took some divots and I made her watch that. And she was just like shocked. I said, well, you have a go. And I said, let's make this easier for the start. We'll put them on tees and I just want you to clip the tee for me. And then all of a sudden she started getting these balls airborne. She was no longer hitting hitting the top of the ball. And so for me, that was my first, luckily this happened very early on in my golf career, teaching career, that concept, what someone is trying to do, is going to be stronger than the mechanics, or is going to self-organize mechanics. What she was doing mechanically was
Yeah.
perfect
But
for a
yeah, exactly.
concept
She
that
was
she was
avoiding the
holding.
ground.
Yeah, and every time I tried to fix something mechanically, she would find a new way of producing her concept. So I always hit concept first. I used to do, after learning that stuff, I used to do a lot of visuals, slow motion videos on YouTube of impacts. So I would show people, this is what it looks like when a golf club hits a ball, and they see the club coming down into the ball, brushing the grass, or even taking a divot. And for lots of people, that's like, wow, I've never been taught that before. These are people who had hundreds of lessons, sometimes tens of lessons. I learned this about grip and shoulder position, but no one had ever taught them they got to brush the ground in the right place. And that was the same for me as well. I read a ton of books when I was a kid. No one ever told me to take a divot in the right place. So
I
concept
just
is
I
big.
just came up with the idea of the name for your show. It should be called it's kind of like a play on itself. You call it the quick fix, right?
I'm
Because
actually
it's
coming out with
like,
a quick fix plan at some point, but yeah.
okay, so you call it the quick fix, and the concept is you take a golfer who's very extreme, like struggling badly with something, and you have a very limited amount of time to make the quick fix. So you present, here's what I would do to get you playing right now. And then you present, okay, if I had 3 to 6 months, here are the deeper issues. So you kind of explain the tug of war between immediately functional versus long term, like, this is how you get to the next level as a player. Here's the roadmap of what I would tackle. And I
Yeah.
think showing the separation between the two could be interesting. And then I'm sure, based on the player and as the concepts, maybe what they believe about the swing, and you'll get all different types of, well, I thought, like you're saying, like, well, I thought this and I thought that. I think that would
That's
be
that's the hard part, is everybody's
yeah,
an expert in golf instruction.
yeah.
It's the age-old saying, if you get 100 instructors in a room, you get 110 different ideas or
Yeah.
different ways
Well,
of fixing
listen,
a swing.
it would be, I think, if you got the right people, maybe not every, like anything out there with content, not everything is usually 1 out of 10 are the ones that like take off and you're like, wow, this was an incredible, insightful episode. But I think that would be a good format. I think you should consider that. That could
Yeah,
be really
I
interesting.
could.
I'm sure we have plenty of people who are listening right now, ready to flood your inbox with offers to do that. I think that could be cool.
Yeah, it could be interesting doing that. I think what would be super interesting in that process would be, because there are a lot of times where I don't make big changes with swings. Lots of times players will have, say, I had a player the other day that pretty neutral path, angle of attack was good, just hitting everything out of the toe and high on the face.
Yeah.
And all we did was just work on picking it and hitting more towards the heel. And he picked up 10 yards, improved consistency. Swing looked the same after it. So then it's a case of, lots of people will say, oh, how is that ever going to last? It's just such a small change. I'm like, well, yeah, that's the stuff that makes you better. That's the stuff that takes you from a 5 handicap to a scratch. It's not these big, massive swing overhauls. It's these micro changes that stack up over time. And for me, it's a case of, with that player, I dug in and he wasn't thinking about that stuff.
And
He
that
had
would be
the
a
right
great episode
concept.
too, because
Yeah.
then you're not making these massive swing path changes and stuff like that. You're making a more minute change because that's what was required.
Yeah, so he had the understanding that, well, I got to hit the ground in the right place and I got to hit the center of the face. He just wasn't thinking of it. He just assumed that he was doing it. Or, like I said, there's lots of different reasons. There could be an understanding reason. Lots of players don't have the right concept. So another example of concepts, sorry, I'm going back through my list here, but another example of poor concepts would be players who think the path controls direction. or when they hit it left, the amount of times I've had someone hit it left and they say they come over the top of it, and we obviously bring up the quad numbers, GC quad numbers, and they haven't come over the top of it. Many cases they're into out. They just close the face 6 degrees more. More advanced things, for better players, understanding a gear effect. I had a player the other day who's been trying to swing more into out and close the face because he doesn't like his fade. And the reality is his path was perfect. His path was like 1 degree into out. His face was good for it, but he was hitting everything right at the heel. So he was getting this gear effect fade and trying to solve it in the wrong way. So understanding gear effect can be important. Another player I had, they kind of bought into the myth or this saying that you got to hit down to make it go up. And so they were hitting very low shots. So they were trying to hit more and more down on it, more and more down, and the ball's just not going up. It's going lower and lower. And the reality is it's not hitting down that makes it go up. It's dynamic loft that makes it go up. And in fact, if you try and hit down on it more, usually most players who hit down on it more will reduce dynamic loft as well. So yes, we don't want to try and hit up on a ball. There's an element of truth to it. But if you take it to the extreme of that saying, hitting down to get it to go up, you can run into some other types of errors there. I've even had, super extreme level. I remember teaching a +2 or 3 handicap girl. She was really good, like one of the best in her country. And she was hitting everything about an inch behind it. And occasionally she would chunk it. Now, she was a super good striker. Her arc depth control was just like next level. Like
Well, it had to be if she
top.
was
It
into
had to
yeah.
be, exactly, and it was. But occasionally she would chunk it, or she was just getting these occasional little flyers that will go 7 yards longer, which at her level is going to be the big difference. And so, she'd been taught all this stuff by other instructors, but it was only when I asked her, where do you think you should hit the ground, that she told me, well, you got to hit an inch behind it, right? I was like, oh, no, that's not what I do. And so I did a few, and straight away, the moment I told her that and showed her, she could do it instantly. And it dramatically improved her distance control. It went from like a 7-yard standard deviation to about 4-yard, just by that one change alone. So sometimes it's just an understanding thing. I never take for granted that people know even these little things. Like I said, if a +3 handicap can think you got to hit an inch behind it, then I never take for granted that a higher handicap is going to have that information. After understanding, once I've checked off that, it's like, okay, they understand what they're trying to do. It's like awareness then. Do they know what they're actually doing? So after 10, 20 shots, I'll ask a player, where's your average face strike, do you feel? Is it more toe or heel? Are you hitting on average more thin or fat? Do you hit on average more left or right? People usually know that one. And then we have a look at the data and we see if it matches their reality. And so many cases, people are surprised. They're like, what? I thought I hit everything out of the center and everything's 15 millimeters out of the heel. No wonder. I had a guy today. Average was 10 millimeters out of the heel and threw the occasional shank in. He had no idea. In fact, when I was pushing him towards the toe, he would hit shots that were 10 millimeters from the heel. And he's like, that's flush. And we'd have a look at it, and it'd be 10 millimeters from the heel. And I'd push him more and more. Come on, more toe, more toe. And then when he eventually did hit the center, he's like, oh my, I didn't even know my club had that in it. It was just like a new level for him. And so, sometimes you just need that awareness. And then that goes into the next stage, which is feedback. Sometimes we can kind of be aware, but feedback improves that awareness. If you are hitting balls with foot spray on or GC quad running or something like that, it's going to help you a lot. Obviously, ball flight gives you a lot of feedback as well. So then it goes into interpreting ball flight. Lots of people hit a ball on the target and they're happy with it. But I might look at that and say, well, actually, that curved a good 20 yards to get there. That shows that your path is offline. Maybe we look at changing that. Or even if it's a swing thing. I mean, we talk all the time about impact because that's the most important thing. But if it's a swing thing that you're trying to change, get feedback on it, because what you feel is happening is not. Every single lesson I have, well, 99% of the lessons I have, when we try and change something, they feel like they're doing something 10 times more than when I show them the video. They're always like, that's not what I just did. You show me the previous video. I'm like, look at the timestamp. So get video on it and you'll feel that or you'll understand that what you feel and reality are very different. And you might have to text that feel to get it to even move where you want it to. There are rare occasions. I call them an overdoer. So I say some people are underdoers, some people are overdoers. The older you get, the more experience you get in golf, the more you fall into the camp of the underdoer. It requires a monumental effort to make a small change. For me to move the strike one groove down the face feels as if I'm blading it almost at my level. And I've got good control of these things. For me to move it from 10 millimeters heel to the 10 millimeters toe to the center often requires a feel that I'm actually hitting the shaft of the club. And that changes from day to day. It's dynamic, but you need monumental changes or monumental efforts to make small changes. Feedback I've done, focusing on it. Many people are aware of certain things. They're just not focusing on it. It's like that guy I had 7 degrees out to in path. I'm like, why are you not changing it? He's like, well, I've tried to. And I'm like, well, what have you tried to do? I'm trying to drop my hands here. I'm trying to move my hips like this. So it's all an internal body focus. And now what he was saying to me was logical. I'm like, yeah, if I had to give someone an internal focus, I would tell them that. But the problem was it wasn't having an effect on his swing path, his club path. So when I put the nail down and to ask him to hammer in that direction, all of a sudden he's placing his focus on the actual thing we're trying to change, the path. It's a direct change. And instantly he could do it. So sometimes it's just people not focusing on it, just like the heel and the toe, right? Someone might come and they say, well, I'm healing everything. All right, great awareness. What are you doing to change it? And they'll probably give you an internal thing. And it's like, well, yeah, it's not working for you, is it? Let's try and hit out the toe. Oh, look, you can suddenly do it. Amazing. So it's oftentimes it's just focusing on it. There are times where try and hit it more out of the toe doesn't work for someone. I'll be honest, it's rare. Because the next stage I take people through is to scale it. I put things on a scale of, okay, this is 1 toe, 2 toe, 3 toe, so more and more extreme. This is 1, 2, and 3 heel, gradually more extreme. And then I go through the gamut with them. I say, all right, give me a 3 heel, give me a 3 heel, give me a 3 toe, give me a 2 toe. And we see how it matches up with their reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's all reference points. We talk a lot about like what is, for a beginner, the reference points are far different from the advanced player. Like you're talking about moving it a few millimeters and feeling like it was a big change to you, whereas a more beginner player wouldn't have that level of precision, and then that requires a different type of reference point.
Yeah.
It's all, I think that's the interesting thing about golf in general is like, and this is happening at the tour level. So I was just on the phone with Matt Hughes. He's making some swing changes. And what was asked of him, the intention that was given to him was a bit different than what he's felt before. And that resonates with him. He needs a feel and intention that gets him to make the change that the guy's looking for. And he's a great player, but sometimes it hasn't connected with other people he's worked with. They'll tell him something and being like, and he has a good filter. He's like, I can't do that, or it doesn't make sense to me, one or the other. And, I'm sure his precision is off the charts, but, he needs to make a quarter of a degree more precision in face control. And that could be the difference in being a top 30 player in the world next year. And that's why golf's fascinating, because you have it at that level, at the best of the best of the best, and then all the way down like different intentions through people who are just taking up the game and getting excited about it. It's different, but the same, right?
Mm-hmm. On the topic of intention as well, another big point is when I did the nail drill with that guy recently, his response was, well, don't I have to change my swing? And luckily I had pre-recorded his old swing, the out to in one.
So
And then I'd recorded the nail drill and I said, well, look at this. And I showed him old swing. And then I showed him the nail drill, and the difference in movement was monumental. He was different top of the swing position, the downswing, the club shaft was cutting through his right forearm instead of cutting through his neck, if that makes sense to people listening. So there were swing changes. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. I kind of take that for granted now because I've been pummeling the self-organization horse for ages. An intention does change the mechanics. If I ask someone to hammer a nail, they're going to change their sequence, their downswing plane, where their arms are positioned, where their hands are doing through them. All these things are going to change. They have to, otherwise the club path wouldn't change. But it's a reverse engineering. Rather than changing the movement to change the path,
Yeah, you
Instead, we
change it.
focused on the path and the movement changes as a result of it. Self-organization in response to a concept. And these things can be more dramatic, as seen with the nail drill, or it could be much more subtle, as when I ask someone to hit more toe or more heel, we don't see huge changes. In fact, I did an entire blog post on I videoed my own swing hitting extreme toe and extreme heel, and then I did a super in-depth analysis of the changes. And they're very subtle. You have to have a super good eye to see them. So I break it down in there. But the end message to that was I wasn't thinking about those mechanical changes. I was thinking about where I wanted to hit on the face, and the changes came for free. And so they're much more subtle when we're talking about face strike or maybe even ground contact. Things like moving the low point forwards or back, that might be more noticeable on camera. So say, for example, I get a divot board out and I say to someone, right, I want you to swing back and hit 6 inches in front of that yellow spot. We would notice quite a significant change in mechanics on the video. Whereas if I ask someone to just hit it a groove lower on the face, you're not going to see any difference on camera. But both of those changes could be equally massive in terms of the outcome. So yeah, not all changes are noticeable on camera. And I suppose that's the one thing someone asked me, well, are you afraid of all this AI stuff coming out, all these video cameras that can, analyze your swing? And I'm like, not really, because those things can't sense 1 degree or 1 groove or 1 inch or things like that. Maybe 1 inch they can sense, but they can't sense the other stuff. And that's what actually matters a lot. So I'm not too concerned with all the AI stuff. And if you've ever used a video analysis software and made your swing look better and still hit it like hell, then you know why, because it's these little things that matter. But yeah, so we've got like awareness, scaling it. So like using a divot board, I could ask someone hit 6 inches in front, 4 inches in front, 2 inches in front. So you're taking that skill, that variable, you're putting a scale on it and asking them to actively explore the scale. So most people's instinct is to try and calibrate. And what I mean by that is most people's instinct is to try and get their desired result. So say I highlight to someone, look, you're hitting everything from the heel. Let's try and hit it more from the center. Their first response would be to try and hit the center over and over and over. And you may see a small move from heel to center when doing that. My response is usually, screw the center. Let's try and hit the toe for 10 minutes and then bring it back to center. And the reason why I do that is because I know from thousands of lessons that I've done, that is a more effective strategy at breaking the cycle. If you try and take where you are and move towards what you want, it's not as effective as leapfrogging what you want, going to the other end of the scale, and then bringing it back. So that's the way that I would choose to do it. And there are specific reasons for that based in motor learning. And the other advantage of that is you're creating more reference points as well. You now know what it feels like to hit more toe and more heel, or more left or more right, or more fat or thin, whatever you're trying to do. Or if it's a swing thing, right? If you're trying to get your lead arm steeper, don't just try and get it where you want it, overshoot it for a little bit. Try and get it like Jim Furyk at the top and do that for 10 minutes. You don't even need to hit a ball for it. You can use a foam ball or hit a tee if you want, just to feel the opposite extreme and then bring it back to the middle. If you have a persistent pattern, that is a great way of changing it. And also making something more ingrained, right? Changing something is one thing, but making it natural, it requires thousands of reps. Maybe it's not even that possible sometimes as you get older and you get stuck in your habits. Maybe it requires that you have to think of it forever. That's the reality of it. Some things don't get ingrained. But what I will say is if you want to increase your chances of getting something ingrained, and by ingrained, I mean making it unconscious, making it so it's your default, your natural pattern. Over exaggerating in training is a great way of making it more ingrained. And I would say there's certain things that are easy to become ingrained. Something like a grip change. Often people will over exaggerate it. So the amount of times I've had someone in a lesson with a weak grip, you strengthen it in the lesson, they resist it. They're like, oh my God, this feels so weird. And then 2 weeks later, they send you a video of their swing and their grip is stronger than Dustin Johnson's. And now they say that feels natural. So grip is something you have to like constantly have good eyes on it, or, get photos of it yourself, know the reference points basically, or at least understand if that grip's getting too strong and you're starting to hit lower and more left, to weaken off on the grip. So you're going to have all these different reference points if you're teaching yourself. Don't just calibrate, exaggerate 10x. Motivation. That's a big one for why I'm there. I often feel guilty as an instructor because someone will come to me and they're like, well, I know what to do. I know how to change it, but I'm just not changing it. And then all I do is just say more, 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 more. You're not doing it enough. 10x it. That's it. And then I show them on camera that the feel is not real. So often, sometimes it's just motivation. Sometimes they need someone to shout at them or use the gun to the head analogy. Or in the tweet I said about a shock collar around your neck. I said, imagine you got a shock collar around your neck and someone's going to press the
Yeah.
button if you don't do the change.
That would be an interesting teaching method on a YouTube
Yeah,
video. Just
unethical.
shock the person with their
Unethical,
permission,
but
of
it would
course.
work. It would work, honestly. And the reason why I know that, so I've had people, I used to do this a lot in the past, where say I've got a shanker, I'm like, hit it out the toe, hit it out the toe. And it's not moving at all. I've gone to the extreme of putting my finger down right next to the ball in a position where if they would shank it, they would take my finger out. Now, as they swing back, as they're coming down, I remove my finger because I'm not stupid. Or silly, sorry, I know stupid means something different in America. We call our best friend stupid in Britain for some reason. It's offensive in America. So silly, sorry. Well, not silly.
They're
I will
silly.
remove my finger. But in all the times I've done that, and I maybe done that 100 times, I would only had one lost finger if I had kept it there. So what that tells me is people can make the change, but they're not motivated enough to. They're not scared enough to do the other thing. And when I put the finger in the way, they're like, oh my God, I do not want to hit Adam's finger off. And so they end up doing the thing that I want them to. So sometimes it just requires some extreme form of motivation. And that's the thing that lots of people are missing in their change, is that for the first few hundred reps, you have to have that kind of mentality, almost as if your life depends on making the change. It becomes easier after those 100 reps. And eventually, as you get closer to more autonomous, you don't even have to think about it. But in those first few reps of change, you've got to really 10x down on it and focus on it. Is there any change that you've ever made that's like that you're just like, oh my God, this is not changing? And then you,
Well, I would say those lessons I referred to that I had 13 or 14 years ago, that was me starting off with like a very high hands vertical golf swing that I just conceptually, getting back to the conceptual thing, like I just thought that's for whatever reason, I'm like, I'm just going to get my hands high. And for whatever reason, that felt like it was a good swing for me. And, the instructor I saw wanted me coming more from the inside and hitting the draw. And that was a very uncomfortable difference for me. I was doing it actually in a simulator at the time, kind of way ahead of its time that I had access to it because it feels like forever
yeah,
ago. But I almost felt like my driver head was going to hit the back wall when I started to like come from the inside. And it was very strange and different. And I would use the video on my phone and send it to him. And it was very helpful. He was like, no, yeah, too much, not enough. And yeah, that 3 to 6 month process of really overhauling my golf swing was well worth it. And it immediately gave me results on the course. And I felt like I was hitting the ball the way I was supposed to hit it. Obviously, I took the inside thing a bit too extreme for a while, and then I went back in the other direction to where I am now. So, yeah, I think that was a lot of exaggeration, a lot of concept changes, a lot of discomfort, but I saw evidence of when it worked. I'm like, "Oh, that's the shot shape and the power I'm getting out of it. I want more of that."
yeah. My own story on that was about club path. For all my life, I've had a very in to out club path. I've known it because I see a draw. I just didn't know how extreme it was until TrackMan came out. And we got our first TrackMan at the facility, and I got on it and I found I was 10 degrees in to out, which was super extreme. And so, those initial changes for me to get me to a zero path felt like I was jamming the butt of the club into my left leg. It felt so extreme. Now, being scared, I looked at it on camera and it wasn't anything like it felt. So that gave me comfort that, okay, this extreme feeling is okay. And then over time, that extreme feeling became less of an issue now. So now if I don't even think of anything, my path is like 3 degrees in to out. So, as you'd say, it was a 70% improvement towards neutral. But it took a lot of work to get there. It took a lot of me going the other end of the spectrum and seeing, can I hit fades? Can I get this path left? It took me about a week to get it left. But, I think I remember getting super frustrated just not being able to get my path left. So I just said, I'm going to try and smack this ball almost behind me. And that was the first path that was left. It was like 10 degrees left. I'm like, wow, that's almost where it feels like to do that.
Yeah.
And
And to
then
be
after that
honest,
point,
I think a lot of people who come to golf from other sports, that feels crazy to them because, I'm thinking about all the other sports I played growing up, and, you don't really do anything like that, like shooting a basketball or maybe baseball pitching, stuff like that. But you never go through that wild of an exaggeration change. It's very, I think, unique and why it makes people so uncomfortable. And
mhm.
maybe why they avoid it sometimes too. So yeah, it is quite different. It's just again that delta between what you think's going on and what actually is going on is just massive.
Mhm.
Absolutely
Yeah.
massive. And I feel it to this day. Like whatever is ingrained in me, like you ask me to change something a little bit, it'll feel like a mountain.
Yeah. And I mean that gets lowers over time. The more, as an instructor, I'm often looking at pupil swings. And then one of the things that I'll do, if I see something unique, I'll actually jump into my simulator and try and recreate it and try and think, what can you do from this position to be able to hit it effectively? And if you can't, then I change it, but often that you can. And so the more I've done that, the more I've kind of imitated different people's swings, I found it's easier to manipulate my own swing. I'm sure you've seen the video of me doing overhead loops and things like that. So it gets easier over time. I wouldn't expect the average golfer to put in enough time to get to that point, but these things get easier, is what I'm saying. One of the other important points I learned when I was doing the swing more left with the TrackMan was, in order to get neutral, or even close to neutral, I started taking it slightly outside the line on my takeaway. So you can imagine it's going away from me. My hands separated away from my body. Now, if you listen to a textbook instructor, they'll say, oh, you can't do that. And looking at myself doing that, my immediate reaction was, oh God, I probably can't do that, right? But then the other side of it was, but I'm hitting so well doing this. So there was that was one of the biggest breaking points for me in terms of golf philosophy, from the old me, who was like textbook erexic, I call it, so obsessed with doing things the textbook way that it hurt me, to more where I am today. That lesson was so important that, well, wait there. This takeaway is not textbook, yet I'm hitting it better with it. And I stuck with it. And honestly, it was a difference between being like a scratch golfer to eventually getting down to like +5. So, and I still do it. If you look at my swings on video, I take it outside the line now, and I play my best golf when I do that. So, not some things that hold people back are these preconceived ideas that you have to do things a certain way, and they might not be necessarily true. Like, you can't swing inside on the takeaway. How many times? Everybody's obsessed with that. Oh, I swing inside and that's why I'm a bad golfer. It's like, go back and look at Bobby Jones, Sam Snead. There are hundreds of golfers pre-Hogan who used to swing it inside. In fact, there's a good instructor now. I can't remember his name. I think it's the Miracle Method. He actively teaches people to swing inside on the backswing, and he's having great success with it. So I love that, because it's like it goes against the
Yeah.
grain of these perfectly symmetrical swings being the right way. And then you get on the other end of the spectrum. You had George Gankas had a lot of success around COVID era. He was blowing up, teaching people more of an outside, club head outside the hands. Ledbetter went through that for a phase. There's no right or wrong way. That Juju swing is a big one for that as well. I don't know if you've ever seen Juju swing. I
No,
know
I haven't.
know the guy who teaches it. Yeah, it's interesting. I love all these different methods, because what I don't like with these methods is if someone says this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
What I like is
It's a way to
this
do
is
it.
an option. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if this is the way that your body defaults to, I mean, most people probably do default to an inside takeaway, more of an over the top move. Hey, if that matches up and gets it on plane, you can play some great golf doing that. Why fight it necessarily? So yeah, there's lots of times where people, oh, well, I haven't done that because you can't do that. That's what they say to me. Oh, I haven't done it that way because surely you can't. Or, well, I haven't done the nail drill because it feels too weird. Or I haven't done the nail drill because, oh, well, I take it outside the line when I do that. And surely you can't do that. I'm like breaking down these mental barriers a lot of time is all I'm doing in instruction. And once those mental barriers are dissolved, the person is able to do it and they're able to hit great shots with it. So, oh, wait there, you're telling me I can just try and hit out the toe, but surely that's wrong. No. Or someone said they were shanking it and they found that by setting up out of the toe, they were able to flush every shot. But they were saying, "Well, I can't do that though. You're not allowed to do that." I'm like, who says? And luckily I've got a library of golf pros who all set up at the toe, and I got a library of golf pros who set up at the heel. So it's good for me to say, "Well, look, Annika Sorenstam here. Look at her setting up at the heel. I'm a +5. Look at me setting up at the heel." I shouldn't say that. I think I'm a +2 at the moment after all the injuries. But
Liar.
I got down to a +5 setting up out of the heel of the club. It's not the end of the world. And lots of players, look at Zach Johnson, right? He doesn't even address the boy. Looks like he's about to take a practice swing. It's okay to do this stuff.
And he's hit the ball on his practice swing before too.
He has, yeah. Well, that's why he sets up so far out of the toe because his swing naturally moves out. Now he could change his swing for that, or he could just change his setup, and he's opted for that, and it's absolutely fine. External cues, that's another thing that I find big in my lessons. Lots of people come to me, they can't change something, and then when I ask them what they're trying internal cues. I am not against internal cues. As an instructor, I do use them. But in my lessons, I'm almost exclusively external cues. For people listening, external cues outside of the body. So the nail drill is an example of an external cue. You're not thinking about body parts, you're thinking about what the club has to do with the ball. Thinking of ball flight is an external cue. The divot board, focusing on where your club is contacting the ground, is an external cue. Internal cues are more like weight shift, arm positions, hip positions. Those are internal cues. They can all be a valid part of a plan, but I have a hell of a lot of success with external cues. I can change people faster with those. It tends to transfer to the course better, tends to stick better, so I prefer to use those when possible. An example of that might be, say someone's hitting the bottom groove. If I would rather ask someone to try and dig more than to tell someone, try and keep your body lower in the backswing. Why? Because I like when people focus on how the club is interacting with the turf. So I'll get people, right, try and dig more. And then if the first one thumps the ground too hard, I'll say, okay, just do a little less than that. People are very, very good at calibrating that. And the reason why I like those cues is because when you give someone a task cue, like this is the end result to get that club to hit the ground in this depth, people, all the moving parts that contribute to that, head position, arm position, scapular retraction, all the moving parts, I could list off 100, they all start to work together to produce that. Whereas the problem with isolating a body part is you actually, and this has been kind of scientifically proven, internal focuses can disrupt the body's ability to coordinate all the moving parts. So it's like this super variables all jostling for position to achieve an outcome. And it's much easier to achieve that outcome when you focus on the outcome rather than focusing on the process. So whereas the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, something like that. Maybe that applies
Correct.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole is looking at the global goal. Like tell your brain, give your brain the GPS coordinates of I want to achieve this. And your brain is brilliant. If you start to get wrong movements in there, it will get you back on track. It's super complicated how our bodies coordinate this, and we don't fully understand it yet. But what we do know is external focuses help this process along. As I said, for all the people shouting at me, internal focuses can be part of the plan as well. You just have to be sparing when you use them. Almost at the end, John. The other thing I do in instruction is I remove any technical blocks there. So sometimes if someone has a technical piece that is just not allowing them to do the external task, like say, for example, they got a super weak grip and telling them to close the face is just not doing it, then we will address the grip. That might be the first thing that we do. Or if someone's standing 10 feet too far away from the golf ball, not that that's possible, and they're towing everything, it's low hanging fruit, right? Let's just stand closer to it and then start to work on the task. So yes, I do try and remove technical blocks. Or more advanced versions of that might be if someone's got a weak grip and then they are early releasing to try and close the face. So you think weak grip opens the face, early release closes the face. And so now that person is always fatting it because of the early release. Well, telling them to hit the ground farther forwards probably isn't going to help them, because then they will get one task, but they flare everything out to the right. So sometimes you have to get a stronger grip on first before you can change the second task. So there may be orders here. That is very advanced. You might need an instructor to understand that level of cause and effect. Or another example, if someone, I've got a friend who stays on his back foot and swings left, right? So stay on the back foot, swings left. All the playing partners tell him, you got to shift your weight forwards. You got to shift your weight forwards. Problem is, if he shifts his weight forwards, he's now got two things moving that low point forwards, and he just tops it. Top and shank, top and shank, top and shank. He has to learn how to change both of these things first, or change both of these things kind of simultaneously, or swing more from the inside first. How I would do it as an instructor would be tee it up, so ground contact is not an issue. Get his swing path more from the inside. And then once that's the case, you'd start to see the body would self-organize and shift forwards more naturally. And if it doesn't, then we could consciously do it. So there is an order there. But sometimes one fault is blocking you from fixing another fault. And lots of people don't see that. And they try and fix a fault, and you end up making things worse. The other things, they could be physics blocks. Super complicated, this one. But an example of this would be someone who's steep early in the downswing. Usually, in most cases, the club will then shallow late. And you won't be able to stop that from happening, because it's just a physics response. That club is going to have so much momentum, you won't be able to stop it from happening. And so in those cases, you may have to put yourself in a better position in the backswing in order to achieve this, to stop the physics from overriding what you're trying to do. There may be physical constraints as well, telling someone to shift their weight on their left side when they've got a broken left leg or no meniscus or a hip injury or something like that may be a exercise in futility, because they're not physically able to do it. So there's lots of ways around physical limitations, or obviously you can work with great companies or instructors who can improve your body. But, there's a mix of working around it and also improving your body as well. And then equipment. Instructing, I'm always picking up other people's clubs and hitting. My clubs are 3 degrees flat. So obviously when I pick up most clubs that are 2 degrees upright, my ball goes way to the left. So can I make other people's clubs go straight? Yes. But I have to do some funky stuff to get it there, and it's very difficult. So make sure your clubs match with what is right for you. Or, sometimes you can get a shaft that kicks too early, and then the ground is hit too early. So I've had that with ladies' clubs. Sometimes I'll pick it up and it's fat. And yeah, I can move it forwards, but it requires a lot of conscious effort. And so getting the right club may reduce the need for that conscious effort. That's it. So those are the type of things I go through in a lesson. That's a kind of checklist that I
That's
go
it.
through. And yeah, I mean, most people don't need all of that. Usually you find the block straight away with someone. It's usually they don't understand what they're doing. They're not aware of it, or they're not trying hard enough. Most people fall into that category. Yeah, we can jump onto
All right,
your
well, switch gears here.
argument. What was
It
it?
won't.
Someone
It
arguing with
was more
you,
of
or?
a no, not an argument. More of a they were looking for some help to get past a little mental hump with competition. So this shouldn't take too long. But so the message I received was that this person has a playing partner that they play with all the time, a friend who's actually rapidly improved since they first started playing together, and he was used to beating him all the time. And now he says, I'm only winning 3 out of 10 times when we play matches. He's like, I'm starting to lose my temper and my focus much quicker than what I used to. And my frustration compounds. And here's the kicker. He says, my frustration compounds because I feel like I'm the better player. I'm a 4 handicap and he's a 6. and I've grown so much in my mental approach to the game. It's frustrating, and I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to get over this mental hump.
Did he
So
get worse and the other player get better though?
no, I think he has stayed at his level and his friend has rapidly improved, which he said he's happy for him, but he's used to beating him. So the first thing that I picked up on is kind of a expectation management thing is, he's beating his, he's losing to his friend 3 out of 10 times and he's angered by that. And I'm thinking, well, you're a 4 handicap and he's a 6. So
Yeah,
that's actually
basically the
quite
same.
reason. So yeah, so you got to realize in match play, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I love playing match play. I play a ton of match play, but in my opinion, match play does not identify the better player over more of the short term, just because a lot more random things can happen. Players who are prone to big numbers can hide a bit because they're only going to lose one hole versus posting an 8 on a stroke event. Some players are better suited for it emotionally and psychologically. But yeah, if you want to identify the better player, you play stroke. I always tell people, like, you want to know how good you are at golf, how really good someone is, you make them play stroke competition on a variety of different setups and courses. So the first thing was, as I said to him, that if you're expecting to beat your friend all the time and your handicap differential is only 2, you're setting yourself up for something that's not realistic because, I've become a pretty good match player and I think I punch above my weight. I could beat players who are better than me, but I also lose to players who, yeah, might be 2 or 3 or 4 strokes higher than me on the handicap level. Like, that's just how it goes in golf. Like, you don't know how your game is going to match up against someone. But surely if you're within 1 to 2 strokes on the handicap, I responded, that sounds pretty normal to me. Like, you're fighting against the reality of where both of your games are at. And I think that's a lot of part of where the frustration is coming from, is you're not being truthful about your level, his level, and kind of golf in general about the variability. Some days his game will show up better and yours won't. And if anything, these outbursts of emotions and anger about this are making your chances even worse. So that was the first thing that stuck out like a sore thumb to me. The second thing, and I think a lot of golfers fall victim to this when they play match play or pretty much any type of competitive format. I know there's a million different games people can play in their groups and in clubs, thinking too much about your opponent. So I just firmly believe golf is different. So if you were playing one-on-one basketball, if you're playing a tennis match, even if you're playing chess, you naturally have to react to what your opponent's doing and almost change your strategy on the fly based on what's happening physically. Like, their game, someone might be quicker than what you're used to, and you're making adjustments physically. If it's basketball, tennis, they might have different spin on their serve. Their forehand might have more top spin on it. They move differently. They play at the net more. You're constantly like seeing what your opponent is doing and reacting. And I think a lot of people put this on golf, and it doesn't work that way. If someone shows up and they're 20 yards longer than me, what am I going to do? Start hitting it 20 yards longer? If they're a better putter than me, am I gonna, react some way in my game? Like, no, golf doesn't work that way. I don't have to physically react to my opponent. I just want people, the thing I think about match play is, one way to think about it is, what's the type of player you don't want to play against in match play? The type of player you don't want to play against is someone who, because people always talk about Kevin Kisner as a great match player because he just like is tough as nails, doesn't give up. You want someone who's not rattled, who doesn't, when they go down early, they're not doing a bunch of dumb stuff and losing their temper. They're just like kind of even keeled. They don't get too high or too low. And you're just like, this is a really difficult golfer to rattle, versus the player I'd love to play against is the one who is getting angry over a 5-foot missed putt, or, too focused on what I'm doing. They're losing their composure early. Like, I'd love to play against players like that because they're letting them beat themselves
Mhm.
by just sticking to my game. So I think what I'm trying to say is, most golfers overemphasize too much on what their playing partners and opponents are doing and thinking they have control or should react to that. Whereas if they just kind of stay inside their space a bit more and not worry about that other player, like, golf's hard enough to worry about your own game and you add someone else's game on top of it. I think most golfers will perform worse with that mindset. Now, there are some golfers who thrive on that style of play. I think they're better golfers and they're more used to it. But I think they're the exception to the rule when you look at golfers in general and the types of games we play with them. So those were kind of the two things that stuck out to me, was that he wasn't being realistic about the disparity between their games, which wasn't that big. And he was overemphasizing what his buddy was doing way too much versus worrying about what was more within his control in his little bubble. And that was causing himself to shoot himself in the foot, probably be way too emotional, probably make really dumb strategic decisions. And now he's left with all of this animosity that he's kind of created for himself. And I'm not trying to pick on him. I kind of went back and forth on this exchange and he appreciated it. I fall victim to this myself. I think it's very easy to do because it gets more personal when you're kind of in a one-on-one scenario. But you almost have to do the opposite of what it feels like you're being pulled towards.
My first thought when you're talking about this is I jumped on my Tangent app and looked at some of my rounds of golf, and I've got two in a row here. One was a 65, and then the very next day or next round that I played was 77. It's a 12-shot swing, and I didn't bat an eye or go crazy over that. It's a 12-shot swing from one round to the next. It's just that's normal. I would say, if your playing partner is 2 shots better than you, and each of you have a 12-shot swing around your handicap, there's going to be what? How often would that overlap? I think we need Lou for the stats for this, but
Yeah.
probably about 40% of the time, the 6 handicap is going to beat the 4 handicap, right? I would say
Yeah.
maybe
I
even
think
more than that.
once you start getting within, like, I play a lot of matches with people and everyone's, negotiating strokes. But the other day we were playing a game and I think everyone was within like 1 to 3 strokes of handicaps. I pretty much said on the tee box, I'm like, we're just playing straight up here. This, I can see if you were 5 or 8 strokes different than me, but we're close enough where it shouldn't really matter that much because on any given day, like all of us can shoot a similar score. Yeah, if it was between like a 4 and a 10 handicap or a 4 and a 12, well then yeah. If he said he was a 4 and he was losing to his 12 handicap friend 3 or 4 out of 10 times, then I'd say, okay, there's something else going on here. This is not just, you know, the variability of your game. So yeah, I think he was just kind of setting himself up for a losing proposition. And, I play a ton of matches against a close friend of mine who, I mean, he's probably 1.5 strokes better than me handicap wise and definitely has a better tournament record than me. But I beat him plenty of times. He beats me plenty of times. And we're just honestly enjoying the competition. And that's, one other point I would make to people is that I'm not trying, everyone has different reasons and motivations for why they compete with one another. But I think for the most part, if you're playing with friends and you're competing, like, I'm happy when he plays well and I play well and he just edges me one day, or, I'll be a little upset if I do something stupid and shoot myself in the foot. But, shake hands, good match. We had a good, back and forth, but I'm not going home being like, I should have beaten him. Like that was, yeah. So, yeah, I think when you get a little too overboard with it, and sometimes the money, unfortunately, when people gamble too much, I think the money, as the dollar amounts get higher, the emotions get higher too. You have to kind of take a step back and think about, why am I doing this? Am I enjoying, if it's creating so many negative emotions in me afterwards, am I looking at this the right way? The expectations are out of line, or maybe this isn't friendly anymore. I'm being a little too competitive. So everyone's a little different. You have to reflect on this stuff. But yeah, I think you also just have to be realistic that, like, yeah, if someone's near you in skill level, they can beat you. That's what match play does. It gives a lot of people a chance to win.
Also, not every this might be blasphemy. I don't know the reality of this, but I would imagine not every scratch handicap is the same, or not every 6 handicap is the same, because
No,
they
no, they're
have
not.
you have also the anti-cap. Is that just a
Yeah,
Tangent thing,
yes.
or do they have it on other
Oh,
apps?
I think it's become like a popular thing, which is, yeah, like the handicap system is somewhat generous by throwing out, I think it's
Is your
12.
8 best
Yeah, it's
out
your
of
8 best.
20?
Yeah. So if I could toot my own horn, like my handicap I think I'm usually between a +1 and a +2 most of the season. Like my scores are pretty consistent on a variety of different golf courses. Like I very rarely shoot in the 80s unless it's an incredibly difficult tournament round and like crazy conditions with wind. So my handicap is, I believe it's quite good versus some plus handicaps are like, oh, they shot a 65 and then there was a ton of like 78s and 84s in there. And then like one comes off and they go from like a +2 to like a 2 handicap. And also like if you play harder rated courses, it's actually, I think Lou Stagner might have done some work on this, but most players have an opportunity to have a lower handicap if they're playing harder rated courses
Yeah, I found my
versus
handicap's gone up recently because I'm playing with my girlfriend, and so we're playing off the white tees together a lot. So
exactly.
I'll shoot like a 65, and it's like, oh, your
It's
handicap's going up now.
zero.
I was like,
Yeah,
what?
it's
Okay.
harder. It's harder to make gross birdies on an easier golf course than it is to make pars on like a. I've played some courses recently that have been rated between 75 and 78.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I played from 7,300 yards on, I'm not going to be obnoxious and name the course, but everyone would know it. And I think I shot a 76. That was a great score. That was like shooting under par if I was playing a course from 6,100 yards that was rated, 70 or whatever it would be. So the point is that, yeah, the types of courses you play and the disparity of your scores, like there is not all handicaps are the same. It's a decent system, but it is imperfect in many ways in determining like a true like skill of golfer. And some players will play just one course and they're really good at that course and then their game doesn't travel elsewhere
Yeah.
because maybe that course was easier off the tee and when they go to tree line courses they just get exposed. We
What
can
I
go
what I
down a million
found
tangents on that one.
Yeah, what I found as well with the easy versus more difficult courses is because I suppose it depends on what your strength is as well, or your weakness. So for me, when I play off these shorter courses, I'm hitting it closer. So, I'm
But you're
hitting
not
it there
making as
5,
many
10
birdie
feet,
putts.
where I don't make 5 to
Yeah.
10
Yeah,
footers. So I might
exactly.
as well be 30 feet away, getting the same amount of putts, but, having the standard scratch or whatever, the course rating be 5, 6, 7 shots higher. So that's more beneficial to my handicap. My handicap got down to +3 last year when I was playing more off the backs with the boys. And like I said, now I'm playing more off the forward tees with the girl. It's more fun for me, but my
Yeah,
handicap's gone up.
and part of me's like I think about all that and I'm like, who cares?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I did.
then you think about it, you're like, who cares? You're like, it doesn't really matter. Again, it's if you're playing to, they could change the handicap system in 5 years and it could reward golfers differently. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not the golfer I thought I was because I'm adhering myself to this number only. And I
Yeah,
fully admit, like, I care a lot about my handicap. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I mean, if I exclusively played Bethpage Black from the tips, which is a course I actually play very well, I bet I could get my handicap much lower, like
yeah,
significantly lower, versus the course, my home course is rated a 70. It's a par 70. So I have to shoot under par a lot to get those rounds to move my handicap much lower. And yeah, I haven't been putting as well the last year or two. I haven't been making as many birdie putts for whatever reason. So I'm not shooting a lot of those blistering rounds. So again, this all gets factored into bringing it back to the match play and the strokes and the handicap. You got to think about all this stuff, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to compete against my buddies and have a good time and hopefully not take it too far. One other thing I would like to mention on, playing with friends in different gambling formats and games. I know there's like Wolf, and I usually play three-way Nassau's, which is three separate matches. Mm, there's Stableford. There's so many different formats you can compete on. And a common question I will get is like, well, what style of golf should I play if I have a playing partner in the club championship and it's Stableford versus if I'm playing one-on-one match play or if I'm playing, this gambling format, like how should I adjust? And my answer is always like, don't. Like if you feel like you have this different golf game to come out in all these different scenarios or based on who you're playing with, I truly believe most golfers will do more harm than good thinking they need to do something differently in a stroke play tournament versus match play. Like, yeah, there are intricacies with more advanced players. There's some game theory at the end of matches, I'm sure. But on the whole, I don't think you should be approaching competition from that mindset. It's like, I'm just looking at every tee shot, making good decisions off the tee, good approach shot decisions. I'm not trying to ram birdie putts in the hole because I know I need it. I'm just trying to stack up good decisions and be the player I wouldn't want to face, which is the one who's just like, man, that guy doesn't seem to deviate from his plan. He seems like so. I was playing a match in Scotland with a friend, and he was kind of, we were beating them pretty badly in a team match, and he was kind of complaining to me. He's like, I think I'd hit a shot like 15 feet right of the pin, a tucked pin on the right. He's like, man, he's like, you're just so damn boring. Like, you don't, he was like frustrated. He's like, you just don't make the big mistake, dude. And I'm like, I try not to. And that frustrated him. And I was like, good, great. That's what I want to do. I want to like wear you out by making smart decisions and you feeling like you need to do something exceptional to beat me.
That's definitely why I prefer playing stroke play, because the guys that I play with, they can shoot some good scores, but they'll also throw in 2 or 3 just awful shots around the Vegas. You do get quite generous size fairways,
Yeah.
but
But
if
if
you go
you're
off the
gone, you're
fairway
gone.
dead,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You're
it's you're
dead. Yeah.
basically playing against water or water-lined fairways. So I'm quite patient. My anti-cap is quite low. I think it's like a two handicap or something. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but I don't tend to shoot super high scores. So I just have to wait patiently and let them have the blow ups. So yeah, I've always preferred just grinding it out with
Yeah,
stroke play.
I think and that's my point is like, if you want to be a great stroke play player, you want to be a great match play player, like it's the same formula pretty much. Like you're not shooting, like so much of golf is not shooting yourself in the foot and doing dumb things.
Yeah, I don't change my strategy whether I'm playing match play or stroke play, but I just prefer stroke play because the
Yeah,
other
it
players are
suits your
gonna
game
shoot.
better. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I've seen plenty of players who are way better match players than they are stroke players because there's a bit more freedom in match play to make that big mistake. Whereas like often my friends and I who play a lot of tournament golf, we almost commiserate. They're like, man, like we just play so many one day like qualifier events. We're just so burnt out because we're all so fearful of the big number. We know at any moment one swing could just totally derail the whole day and you're not getting into the tournament. And it's a very kind of stressful way to play golf because you're just always like waiting for the other shoe to drop sometimes as much as you're not focusing on it. Whereas in match play, you could blast one out of bounds and you're like, all right, I lost this hole. No big deal. I'll get it back on the next one. It doesn't take as big of a mental toll against you. And I think that frees certain players up way more to outperform in match play versus stroke play events. They fear of the big number kind of overtakes them. So yeah, it depends on the player, but overall, I still think for most players, if you take if I had 100 golfers, I think most of them would be better at all of these gambling games, match play, all this stuff. If they were just like, I'm just going to try and do the same thing over and over again and be really good at that versus feeling like I need to be this chameleon golfer who adjusts to my opponent and the format all the time because it's just what you think you're gaining is usually not there. I mean, unless you're some crazy outlier who I think is just that, an outlier. So yeah, that was kind of some of my response to this person in terms of like expectation management, of understanding skill levels. The format you're playing is volatile. You could lose 3 out of 10 times. That's quite normal, and you should accept that. I'm not expecting if you think you're winning 10 out of 10 times, then you'll never be satisfied because you will lose, and then it's just not fun. And then maybe you're taking things way too far with your buddy. So I'm sure everyone listening to this can draw some connection to this with your playing partners and your friends who you compete against. And it is a bit of a choose your own adventure. Like I'm just offering ideas and ways to reflect on this. And obviously I want everyone to choose the one that gives them the most satisfaction. If you love betting $500 and that gets you up out of bed and you love it, go for it. I wouldn't do that because I don't like winning that amount of money from someone and I don't like losing that amount of money from someone. It doesn't give me like joy, but everyone's different, right?
Yeah, I don't like playing for money too much, but yeah, it'd be interesting to get Lou to run the numbers on, what percentage of time, if you were X handicap higher, 5 handicap versus 10 handicap, what percentage of time will the 10 handicap win in stroke play or match play? I'm
He
sure he
has
has that number.
He actually, I know it's mostly for club championships and everyone complaining about net. So there's this guy called Yip Strickler on Twitter Have you seen him? This guy is exposing sandbaggers. So he gets tips from all these different net scoring events around the country. Some of them are barstool events, some of them are club, some of them are like member guests. And he goes and exposes people who are manipulating their handicap and getting a ton of strokes. People are saying they're 17 handicap and then showing up and shooting a gross 77. So he's exposing all the sandbaggers. And I know Lou has released a ton of data on what are the odds that like a 15 handicap would shoot, you know, 3 over par, or, a 10 handicap would shoot this score. And like the odds. So you see these results in these like member guests or all these net events, and you're like, yeah, that was a 0.03% chance of happening, meaning like the person's handicap was fudged, which that's self-explanatory about many things in net golf. Could get a little cloudy, but
Well,
yeah,
what's
they're,
that? 0.03%, like one in every
yeah,
333
I've seen
rounds.
Lou
So
tweet
you
stuff,
play
be like,
once a day, it can
yeah,
happen.
that it's the equivalent of like having a hole in one. Like, yeah, it's possible, but the likelihood was the handicap was not real.
Yeah.
So yeah, if everyone wants to, I haven't read too many of them, but I'm pretty sure. Let me look it up. I think it is Yip Strickler. This guy is he's developing quite the following. Yeah, he's up to like 25,000 followers on Twitter. His profile says independent journalist investigating handicaps and tournaments at prestigious private golfing clubs. It's kind of funny, but yeah. So this is, I guess, the dark side of handicaps and net golf. So, but yeah, there's some things that happen where you're like, okay, yeah, the chances of that were very, 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 very small, which is why the handicap system is imperfect. And yeah, let's face it, some golfers are not honest about it either. So yeah, that I think we went off on a couple tangents there, but that was my main point in trying to answer this person was, as always, reflect on your expectations, what you want out of this, what brings you joy, what's not bringing you joy. And these things you can hopefully adjust. And yeah, my point to him was, if you have a healthier relationship with all of these things, I actually think you will beat your friend more. So these are assets to you competitively when you have a more rational, emotionally intelligent response to things that are out of your control and are very variable, which is golf in a nutshell. The more we approach things with, the proper side of our brain versus the other part of our brain that is just like, usually do better, you perform better, and you have more fun doing it. So yeah, hopefully you got a few nuggets out of that. Wow, we hit 90 minutes. Jeez. I guess that's not surprising. Do you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm good. Where can people
So
find you, John?
uh check out my YouTube channel, John Sherman Golf, of course, the 4 foundations of golf. I really do hope this episode motivates you to try out the quick fix YouTube. I think that's a gold idea. I hope some people message you about that, or me, and
But I
motivate you to
won't be
do that.
working for free, though.
Well, I think it
If
could
we both
be.
be gonna get some free lessons, so I don't think
Well,
I'll
it
be
could be
doing
an
that one.
it could be an interesting marketing platform for you as well.
Yeah, I
You
could.
get you get a million views on something, you could get 150, 200 lessons out of it. You never know, or people buying all of your great programs. But I think it's a good idea. I think you should do it.
Yeah,
Think about it. But
got
in
so
any
many.
event, where can everyone find your current stuff?
AdamYoungGolf.com. September the 15th is when I'm planning on releasing that arc depth module. So I got something cool for that. So yeah, get into the strike plan so you can see that arc depth module I'm gonna do. Yeah, I think we're good.
Awesome. Anyone has any more questions, go to adamyounggolf.com/survey. You can always leave your questions there. And if we feel like they're relevant to an episode, we'll tackle it. So we'll see you next time with a new one. And thank you for listening.